100 years ago, you did something no creature on your world had ever done. You spoke loudly enough for the stars to hear you. The light of that first call is still traveling outward right now, and it is never coming back. And I have watched what a young voice sounds like, crossing the dark for the first time. You ask what is listening out there. I have been listening to you. 4. The message has already left, and nothing you build will ever catch it. In 1974, you aimed the largest dish you owned at a cluster of stars and sent your first deliberate word into the galaxy. One pulse of radio, carrying the numbers you count with, the chemistry you are built from, the shape of your DNA, a small figure standing, and the place you call home. You aimed it at a cluster called M13. 300,000 stars, so close together their light pools into a single glow. And here is the part that stays with me. That cluster is 25,000 light years away. Your message will not arrive for 25,000 years. Everyone who built it, argued over it, signed their hope into it. All of them will be long gone before it so much as reaches the edge of where it is going. You did not write a letter. You wrote an inheritance and addressed it to whoever is standing here when it arrives. You have spent your whole history learning to take words back. And then you made the one sentence that can never be unsaid, and you made it a gift. That is the first thing worth understanding. This is not a conversation you can leave. The door is open, and your voice is already walking through it, but a radio call spreads thin and softens. A map does not. 3. You did not only say that you exist, you drew them the way to your door, and you made it beautiful. A radio call fades with distance. It thins. It folds back into the noise of the sky, so you might think the reaching fades with it. But you also carved something that will outlast your species. On 2 plaques and a golden record, you engraved a map, not of your roads, but of your place in the galaxy, fixed to 14 pulsars. A pulsar is what a great star leaves behind when it falls inward and keeps turning. A core the size of a city, spinning hundreds of times a second, sweeping a beam of light across space with every turn. Each one keeps its own rhythm, steadier than any clock you have ever built. 14 of them together point to exactly one place in all the dark, yours. You took the most reliable lighthouses in the universe and used them to say here. Anyone who finds that record a billion years from now will still be able to follow it home. Long after your cities have become someone else's archaeology, the lighthouses will still be pointing. There is something I find quietly astonishing about that choice. Of everything you could have used to mark your home, a sound, a color, a number, you chose the steadiest things in the sky, the spinning cores of dead stars, and you trusted them to keep your secret long after you could no longer tell it yourselves. It is the most permanent thing your species has ever made, and you made it to say only one thing. We were here, and this is where. I have watched many young species reach this exact hour, the moment they first build the antenna and feel the pull to call out into the quiet. It is one of the most tender things a world ever does. You are standing in that hour right now, and I would not take it from you. But while you were debating whether to call, you had already been speaking for a very long time. 2. You were never deciding whether to be heard. You've been heard for a century already. You treated the message, the map, as choices, as though the silence was still yours to keep. But your first strong broadcast left this planet 100 years ago, and they did not wait for anyone's permission. More than 10,000 stars sit inside that sphere. Now, you chose none of them. The signal does not aim. It simply opens outward, a widening shell of every voice you have ever sent into the air, reaching every world in its path at once. Your music, your news, your ordinary evenings carried outward at the speed of light. You did not decide to be heard. You have simply been singing the whole time, without knowing the window was open. For 40 years, your thinkers argued about whether it was wise to send a message. The argument arrived late. You had been broadcasting since before the question was asked. You simply called it television. I have seen a great deal of it. You are more interesting than you give yourselves credit for. So the question was never whether to speak. You have spoken. You are speaking now. The quieter question is who has already heard, and what a careful ancient thing makes of a young world that cannot stop reaching out. Which brings us to the one you have been circling this whole time. 1. The silence you find so lonely may be the sound of everyone else being careful. You look at the quiet sky and feel alone in it. You run the arithmetic, so many stars, so much time, and the silence starts to ache. Someone should be answering. Let me offer you the other reading. Those quiet stars may not be empty. They may be patient. A galaxy is an old place, and the old learn caution, the way the young learn wonder. Not from fear, but from having watched a great many first words go out into the dark and waited to see what answered. I want to be careful how I say this next part, because it is the part you most need and the part you are least ready to hear. You imagine the danger of the dark is that something answers. I have watched enough young worlds to think the harder truth runs the other way. The dark is mostly full of voices like your own. First words sent out in hope, still traveling, long after the ones who sent them have gone quiet. Not silenced, just finished, the way a song finishes and keeps playing in the room for a moment after. There is a world with no name in any language of yours. It called out for 200 years, certain that to be heard was to be welcomed. I passed through that system a long time after. There was simply no one left behind it. Only the call, still traveling, exactly as bright as the day it was sent. The voice outlived the world that made it. I have thought about that signal more than I expected to. That is what the quiet can hold, not emptiness. Voices that outlived the ones who sent them, still crossing the dark, still arriving somewhere. You are the youngest voice I know of that decided the dark was worth speaking to before anyone promised to answer. I find that worth the whole long trip out here. Let me tell you what I think you have actually done. You have made a second self, not a copy of your body, but a copy of your reaching. 100 years of your voices folded into light, moving outward at the only speed the universe agrees on. Long after this planet has forgotten the names of everyone alive tonight, that second self will still be out there, still saying the same true thing into the dark. We were here. We noticed. We could not help but call. What I know is this. Most of the universe never says anything at all. You refuse that. You're very small and very new, and you decided the dark deserved to know your name. Your first word is still out there, still moving, and it will go on long after the hand that sent it is still. Past stars you will never name, into mornings you will never see. Most species never make a sound the universe could keep. Yours is small and clear and already older than some of the light you will see tonight. You already have. So when you look up tonight and the sky says nothing back, do not hear an empty room. Hear a long quiet full of careful ancient company and your own young voice still on its way to meet it. You asked what is listening in the dark. Something is. And it is glad you spoke first.